Hello, welcome to Scotty's Toy Box. I'm Scotty. Hey, we all have different opinions on things, and that's okay. Nobody should have to worry about that, except if your opinions are about to hurt somebody. Then you have to stop and think about it. Why? What do you gain? All right, let's just use an example. I'm a gay fella, been gay all my life, actually. It ain't something you can catch. It's something you're born with. Kind of like a third nipple or, I don't know, wart on your cheek. It's just there. You don't, you shouldn't have any other concern about it. But growing up as a gay man and in the 1970s and that with Anita Bryant throwing her crap out there and making everybody, I remember when I told my adopted father, bless his abusive god dang soul, uh, that I was gay. No thanks to anything. But anyway, I was gay, and he told me, well, I guess I've got to buy a burial plot for you, and I'll have to support you for the rest of my life till you die. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, nobody's going to hire you being a gay. It's bad enough you're. And he went on. Well, anyway, me and my adopted father have a long history of, well, you can figure that out yourselves. It's on my blog. Anyway, uh, at the time, I had a great job. I was making more money than he was. But you see, because I was gay, that just changed everything, in his mind. Now, when he was in his 70s, he did turn around, and before he died, he begged us to bring him down here to Florida where we were to get him away from his natural children. But that's beside the point. What I really want to talk about is something I wrote down the other day, a sermon that a gentleman I knew who'd been in the Vietnam War, very, very religious. His family held to the religious code uh, second to none. And I grew up with, let's just say that I was a Seventh-day Adventist, and this family that he had was more rigid about their religious beliefs than almost any other Seventh-day Adventist family I'd ever known. But um, he gave a sermon one time that, well, just opened everybody. They just went crazy. They wanted him to become the next pastor. But they wanted that of me too. So where's that get you? Anyway, he got talking about the end times. This is a man who went through Vietnam. He was a corpsman, didn't carry a weapon, and he was literally right in the thick of it. There's sometimes that he wouldn't hardly ever talk, but if you could get him to tell you, it's amazing that he ever survived. Now, I don't put that up to any deity, it's just the luck of the draw. He did, and others didn't. And he still carried that guilt with him. And that's part of what I'm trying to say. It was his feelings that he must have survived because a deity had arranged it. Well, if that's the case, the deity arranged the deaths of the others. And he would never go there. That can't be true. No deity he loved would cause a death. But if the deity saved him, why didn't it save the others? All right, now look. there's a certain time length on these things, and I'm already getting close to it. So just let me tell you what he preached that day. I remember it so well because everybody just was in awe, and at the end they all stood up and they amened, and they were like, "Oh my God, how did that's so true." Well, he was talking about the locusts in Revelations, and he said, the way they're described and that, and the way they sound, he said, that's like the helicopters in Vietnam. Think about it. They had this and they had that. They had these blades and those things, and this could be the end times because we had those things, and that's what it seems to describe. And here we are, and it's that time. That was 30 some years ago, and they were all looking around them like God was going to come right then. And that's the thing. You can make any part of the Bible fit anything you want. And now, first of all, I'm going to say this about my friend. He at least lived the life he preached. And I know, they didn't have. I went over to their house one Saturday because Saturday was their Sabbath, and all they had to eat in the house was corn and milk, and that was all they had. And they ate that. Now, several times, knowing they didn't even have the corn and milk, I would buy a couple pizzas, and I'd show up and they'd say, "Oh, well, we can't have anything bought or anything on the Sabbath." And I'd say, "Oh, but yeah, I just managed to get this in before Friday night. Here it is." I never questioned that it was still warm. I'm sure probably Denny did, but you know what? He believed so heavily in his God. And I would not take that away from him for anything, because here's a man who did not in any way harbor ill feelings against anyone, gay or different religion or whatever. This man would give you the blood right out of his veins. And that's true religion, and that's true faith. And that's what I admire. And you know what? These people that want to stand up and say, "I'm against this, I'm against that," you don't know what true religion is, because I saw it in this family and this man who would never do that. His God and his relationship to that God was internal. It wasn't anything to do with this world. He believed honestly. The rest can do what they want. That's the way the world was. His God had made the world. The religious people stepped out of it and believed. So every one of those religious people that tells you, "I'm against this or I'm against that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and do it. They protest or whatever. They're not following the Bible as it is. And that's just my view, because, I was a Seventh-day Adventist. I went to a Seventh-day Adventist private church school, and I was trained in that. But I had my disbeliefs, and I learned, and amazingly, even though we had Bible classes, we also had biology and other classes, and they didn't say that the earth was 6,000. They said it was 4.3 billion. And all this stuff, and you get around to asking, well, okay, why do these other groups say these things? And there was no answer for that. For the non-believers or the church. They just had to say that, well, their understanding isn't quite right. Well, anyway, I don't want to get into that. I just wanted to tell you about Denny's, sermon about that and what it means to a person like him. Because, see, anybody who really believes in their religion or their end time views or whatever, they can pick any one or two or three instances and say, this is it, this is what it means, and this is what it was referring to. I have heard that when I was a Seventh-day Adventist, we credited Ellen G. White as being a prophet. Well, how did she get that way? Well, let me tell you something. Originally, the startup of the Seventh-day Adventist Church said back in the 18 whatevers, we're all going to die tomorrow. Well, it wasn't tomorrow, but it was, we're all going to, heaven's going to open up and the end times is here and this is it. And just like everybody else that has had that drive that tomorrow the earth ends, guess what? It didn't. So they moved it back a few years and said, we miscalculated. Here's it going to happen. And everybody sold their stuff and they stood around together and they said, we're not being raptured. We're not going. Where are the angels? Where's, because it's a nice thought, but it ain't going to happen. This is the world we have. This is the world we deal with. It's more important what we do with this world, with our thoughts, than any future world, any extra. I don't even know what you call it, another dimension or something that we're going to if we die. And in the religious view, I guess you say heaven and then anything in heaven, but that doesn't sound right, because heaven is different for every people or person. So are we all having a different heaven? Aren't we going to get lonely by ourselves? What I view as heaven even wouldn't probably be what Ron views. I know it wouldn't be what my son views. And some of the people I grew up with, I shudder to think about their heaven. Anyway, so if heaven was real, we'd all have all these different views, these different wants, these different needs. I think we'd all be individual heavens, right? Now, I've heard some people say that we create the heaven. The human mind is so powerful that we create our own heaven when we die, and that's where we live. Well, I don't quite believe that, because that would have to mean the human mind could create an entirely different dimension or place in space-time and that. No, but I will agree that we're all energy and that we're returned energy, and anything's possible that way. I don't know. I'm not privy to the end of the world or what's going to happen. I kind of figure out by science that we're going to be pretty good until the sun enlarges, and then it's going to crispy critter the planet. But that's going to be so many billion years in the future, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about it. Okay, this is going on 13 minutes, and I had a wonderful person tell me the other day, St. Pauli's girl, that just don't have time to listen to a long one. So I'm going to stop this one, and you know what? I'm going to post it, and I'm going to start another one. Alrighty, bye-bye. And as always, Scotty hugs.